Hey there, it's Mike Muscle. I have two quick questions for you. Number one, do you exercise? And number two, do you drink alcohol? If you answered yes to both of those questions, you might want to keep watching because I'm going to share with you the results of a recent study that will show you that exercise and alcohol, they do not mix. So let's dive into the details. A research team at West Virginia Medical Center had individuals come into a lab and do exercise. They did a combination of weight training, cardiovascular-based training, and high-intensity sprint training. Then afterwards, they basically did a muscle biopsy of their quadricep muscle, and they gave them a couple different interventions, right? So one intervention was just protein. We'll call this group A. So group A just had protein immediately after this high intense training session, which, by the way, let me tell you the details of this. They did leg extensions, which was 8 sets of 5 reps to failure. So this was a high intense, high volume weight session, resistance type training session. They also had individuals undergo a steady state cardiovascular session. So this was a 30-minute at 70% VO2 max. So not the hardest workout in the world, but certainly not easy. And then after that, after both those two programs, they did 10 30-second all-out sprints. So this was maximal effort, 110% VO2 max. So, this wasn't like the worst workout in the whole wide world, but this certainly wasn't easy. So we would expect some increase in muscle protein synthesis, some muscle damage, that exercise, oxygen debt, the EPOC effect, and so forth. And so group A, they had just the protein, and what they found was a dramatic increase in mTOR, dramatic increase in muscle protein synthesis. Group B had protein plus alcohol, and the alcohol equivalent, for me would be around 3 drinks. Okay, it was like 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight, and you have to do some math. So I did some math, and for me it was around 3 to 4 drinks. So a fair amount of alcohol. And what they showed is that this actually blocked muscle protein synthesis by around 25-27%. So a pretty big deal. Now, Group C had alcohol plus a carbohydrate drink. So this was a simple like dextrose or maltodextrin. And what they found was that around a 40% reduction in mTOR after that drink. So here's the bottom line. Alcohol, without a question, reduces muscle protein synthesis in the post-workout window. So again, they did a muscle biopsy at hour 2 and hour 6 to see the long-term effect of the alcohol on muscle protein synthesis. But the other big take-home point, number 2, is that protein, if consumed with alcohol, minimizes some of the deleterious effects linked with alcohol. So it's really important. If you are going to drink, we're all human. We make mistakes. We have friends. We want to be social. We want to go out. If you do drink, make sure you have a protein shake before, whether it's whey protein or pea protein or maybe a can of sardines, whatever it may be, maybe 2 scrambled eggs, something to offset some of the deleterious effects that alcohol is going to have on your skeletal muscle tissue. Now, big point number 3, I don't want to scare you a little bit, but since you're still watching, you need to understand that alcohol also increases intestinal permeability or leaky gut. It causes damage to the gut barrier, and that causes inflammation. And we know that inflammation is linked with insulin resistance. So that's the other thing you need to understand, is that one of the mechanisms that alcohol can potentially impact your metabolism in a negative way is from the leaky gut induced inflammatory response. And we know that inflammation is linked with also leptin resistance as well, which is not a good thing because you have leptin receptors inside your muscle tissue. Now, here's the last thing. Alcohol increases cortisol. A lot of people don't understand that, but the cortisol inducing hormone ACTH in the brain is actually induced by alcohol. So even though alcohol is somewhat of a sedative, it's relaxing and so forth, it still does have a mild increase in the stress response, which, as we know, cortisol puts the brakes on muscle protein synthesis and it puts the gas pedal on muscle protein breakdown or catabolism. So here's some things that you really don't want to have. So just keep in mind, if you're going to drink, you're probably going to notice it in terms of a reduction in resting metabolic rate, increased muscle protein breakdown, maybe even the stress response, and maybe even poor gut health. So just keep that in mind. So you want to offset that with protein, offset that with gut support and probiotics and prebiotics and polyphenols from color and blueberries and raspberries and chocolate, things that will help to offset that. Again, if and only if you're going to drink alcohol. So hopefully this makes a little bit of sense. If you want to learn more about this study where I reviewed a research paper from a team in Boston, and they showed that alcohol does have a huge effect on intestinal permeability in college students, go over to highintensityhealth.com and you can type in alcohol and that study will pull up. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear from you. Type them in below and we'll catch you on the next video.